Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good afternoon to Miss Zahra and my fellow friends. Today we from Group 1 will present about the theory of realism in international relations. We hope you all can understand and listen to our presentation until the end. Thank you. There are 5 members in my group. Number 1 is Muhammad HISHAMUDDIN bin NORISHAM. Me, ZAHRA ALYA NABEELAH binti Muhammad IRMAN. Number 3 is NURUL binti RAMLEE. Number 4 is HANI MAISARAH binti HASNI. And the last but not least, number 5 is ALYA SOFEA binti Muhammad RIDUAN.
Assalamualaikum. My name is NURUL binti RAMLEE. We will talk about realism in international relations. There is 2 founding fathers. The first one is Hans J. Morgenthau. He is one of the founding fathers of realism. Politics Among Nations is a widely renowned book written by Hans Morgenthau in 1948 that commonly known as a classical realism approach to international politics. There is 6 principles of realism, which is politics follow rules based on human nature. The next one is nations make decisions based on their own interests, particularly those related to power. The third one is power is significant everywhere but it changes according to the circumstance. Number 4, morality is important but choice need to be realistic and take risk into account. Number 5, a country belief like religion or value are not always right for everyone. Number 6, the focus on power in politics sets it apart from other disciplines. It is similar to how an economist concentrates on wealth and a lawyer concentrates on the law, and realists view politics primarily as a struggle for power. The second founding father is Thucydides. Political realism is a school of thought that sees international affairs as motivated more by the pursuit of power and national interest than by principle or moral, and frequently credit. Next, Thucydides, as one of its foundational founders, claimed that the need for security and self-interest have a major role in determining state conduct. Next, Thucydides often presented power politic as the primary cause of moral conflict in his account of the Peloponnesian War. Thucydides' realism basic principle is that human nature is unchangeable and influences political action. Next is definition of realism. Also, realism has dominated international relations, particularly during the Cold War, but today many experts question its future roles in international security. Realism theory is a broad knowledge that mainly employs power to understand international relations. It is a set of linked ideas of international relations that highlight power, national interests, and the state's roles in global politics. Since the end of World War II, realism has dominated international relations study. Realism focuses on enduring patterns of interaction in an international system without a centralized political authority. The British political scientist and historian Edward H. Carr served as an inspiration for realism, which became a self-aware trend in the study of international relations in the middle of the 20th century. Government play a major roles in maintaining security and stability by acting in their own national interests.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is ZAHRA ALYA NABEELAH binti Muhammad IRMAN. Now I will explain about the core assumption of realism in international relations. So, number 1 is a state are the main actor. Realism says states are the most important player in the world politics. For example, when countries talk about USA or China, they mean the whole state, not just a company or NGOs. Number 2 is the world is anarchy. There is no world government to control country or stop war. For example, no one can force the USA or Russia to stop a conflict. They decide for themselves. So number 3 is survival and security. In a competitive and frequently aggressive environment, every state's basic objective is to secure its own survival and uphold national security. So every state cares most about staying independent and safe. For example, a small country like Singapore focuses on strong defense, so bigger power cannot threaten them easily. Okay, now I will move to the key principle of realism in international relation. Number one is balance of power. In a world with no world government, weaker states fear a super powerful state might attack or control them. So they balance that power. During the Cold War, the US and NATO balanced against the Soviet Union, so neither side could easily attack the others. So number two is conflict and competition. Power is a zero-sum game. If one state gains power or territory, other may lose influence or security. This push state to compete in a trade, weapon, and alliance. The US-China trade war, where both sides put tariff on each other to protect their own economies and influence. Number three is security dilemma. So, security dilemma. There is no good or bad side here. Both sides think they are defending themselves, but their action create an or arm race or rising tension. Hi, I'm back. Now I will explain about the advantages of realism in international relations. So number one is a practical and realistic approach. Realism says they care most about their own survival and security, not about being nice or perfectly moral. Because the world is anarchy, no world government. Realism assumes they will act in their national interest and be cautious about trusting others. This makes realism very down to earth and useful for understanding real world politics and instead of just dreaming about the peace. So, for example, is during the Cold War, the US and the USSR did not just trust each other, but they both built strong militaries and nuclear weapons to protect their own security. This behavior fit realism. Both sides knew they could not fully rely on promises, so they focus on power and self-protection. So, number two is clarity in explaining conflict. Realism explains war, rivalries, and tension very directly. States compete for power in an anarchic system, unlike liberal and idealism theory, which say cooperation and peace can be easily happen. Realism expects conflict and competition because there is no higher authority to stop dispute. For example, the rivalry between the US and the China today is partly explained by realism. Both want more influence in Asia, but in Asia more military strength and more economic power because no world boss can stop them. Their competition sometimes lead to tension, trade fight, and regional. So the last but not least is the focus on power and security. Realism put power in military, economy, and alliance at the center of the international relation. It explains why state increase defense budget, form alliance, and sometimes use prevention, acting early to stop a possible threat to protect their security. For example, NATO exists because many European states joined an alliance to increase their collective power and security against a strong rival. Originally the Soviet Union. Realism seemed this as a natural move. Weaker states balance power by teaming up so they are not pushed around by a single powerful country. That's all from me. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone. My name is ALYA SOFEA Binti Muhammad RIDUAN and my matric number is 2025 229 and 148. So today the topic that I will share and present to you is about disadvantage realism in international relations. There are three disadvantages that I have been choose. The first of them is lack of consideration for non-state actor. As we know, a non-state actor can be known as the international organization, multinational cooperation, and non-governmental organization. In perspective of realism, there tend to be more focusing on state rather than non-state actor. Meanwhile, as we know, non-state actors play such a crucial roles in terms of politics, economy, and environment. For example, the situation happened regarding of environment is they act as soon as possible by providing resources, fund, and humanitarian support. Secondly, can be known as a failure to explain, sustain peace and cooperation. Realism can be known Realism fail to explain the reason why they choose peace cooperation instead of conflict. So the effect can be seen after the World War II as many countries start working together instead of having conflict among of them. This led to the creation of international organizations such as UN and EU. So by having this organization, it can help countries to solve their problem more peacefully rather than realism is way more focusing of competing the power. Lastly, can be known as the inability to predict major event. So as we know, and as I said earlier, realism is then more focusing on the power and competition between strong countries rather than cooperation. So the as the effect of them, they will put higher expectation that the conflict will continue severely. However, Soviet Union collapsed and changed in political ideas and the ideology. For example, during the end of the Cold War in 1991, realism aspect continued rivalry between the and US and USSR. Realism also have one habit which is they tend to ignore how values, identity, and ideology shape state behavior, which is can lead to the change in the policy.
My name is HANI and I will explain about analysis. There are two parts which is important of realism theory and application to real situation. Okay, now I will explain the importance of realism theory. First is the core principle. Realism sees the international system as having no central authority, so countries must rely on themselves to survive. States act rationally and focus on power, security, and national interests. They may build military strength or form alliances, which can lead to situations like balance of power and the security dilemma. So, this is important because it helps us understand how countries actually behave in the real world. Next is the explanatory power. Realism helps explain why wars and conflicts keep happening throughout history, such as the Cold War. It shows conflict is normal and peace is often fragile. This is important because it gives us a realistic understanding of global politics. Lastly is policy influence. Realism guides leaders in making decisions, especially in security and foreign policy. For example, strategies like deterrence and balancing power are influenced by realism. So this is important because it helps policymakers handle real-world challenge effectively. Okay, for the application of realism theory in real situation, I will explain two main examples. First is the Cold War. During this period, the United States and the Soviet Union operated in a system with no central authority. So, both countries had to rely on themselves, or what we call self-help, to ensure their survival and security. Both sides built massive nuclear weapons, not to attack but to deter each other, which shows that power, especially military power, is very important in realism. They also form alliances such as NATO and Warsaw Pact to balance each other's power. At the same time, we can see the security dilemma where one side increases its military strength and the other side feels threatened and does the same, leading to an arms race. So this situation clearly reflects realism because both countries acted based on survival and power, not trust, and peace only existed because both sides were afraid of each other. Next is the Gulf War. In this case, Iraq invaded Kuwait to increase its power and control resources, which shows the pursuit of national interest. Then, the United States and its allies intervened to stop Iraq from becoming too powerful and to restore the balance of power in the region. They used military force instead of relying only on diplomacy, which reflects the realist idea that power is the main tool in international politics. So, this example shows realism because countries acted rationally to protect their own interests and maintain balance, not just because of moral reasons. So, overall, both examples shows that in realism, countries focus on power, security and their own interests in order to survive in an uncertain international system.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad HISHAMUDDIN and I will talk about the impact of realism in international relations. For the first impact is power and national interests. This is because in this theory, realism argues that every country's main goal is to survive and become stronger than others. Instead of they focusing on state prioritize their own national interests such as security, economic growth and political influence, this will shape foreign policy to be experimental and strategic, not idealistic. The country will make decisions that benefit themselves even if it will harm others' country. For example, during on the Cold War, United States and Soviet Union support different countries and regimes, but it's not because it was morally right, but to expand their influence and power globally. The second impact for this theory of realism on IR is security dilemma and arms races. In the international system, where there is no central authority, the country cannot fully trust each other. So, when there is one country increase their military for protection, the other country will see that as a threat and respond it by increasing their own military. This will create fear, even if there is no country actually want to conflict. For example, when North Korea developed nuclear weapons because they want to be country like South Korea and United States, that to strengthen their military presence, but this increased tension in the region, even though each side claim is it for defense purpose only. The third impact is balance of power. Realism suggests that stability is maintained when power is distributed among several countries, so there is no single state become too dominant. Countries often form alliance to balance stronger power. It will lead to formation of alliance and blocs. Then it will shape global political order. For example, like the rivalry between United States and China show realism in action. Both of the countries compete in trade, technology and military power to become the dominant global leader. For the last impact is on limited role in international organization. This is because in this theory argue that organizations like the United Nations cannot fully control powerful countries because they will always prioritize their own interests. So, the international law and organization are often ignored when they conflict with national goals. For example, even though United Nations promote peace, powerful countries sometimes act without its approval. For instance, military intervention may occur despite lack of union consequences.
In conclusion, realism is a key idea that aids in our understanding of the competitive character of international politics in realism. It emphasizes how crucial survival, power, and national interests are in determining state behavior. Realism is still quite useful for understanding international conflict and strategy choice. The most important lesson is that government must constantly put their security first while striking a balance between cooperation and rivalry in an unpredictable environment.
Do you guys think realism theory is still relevant in today's modern world where countries are becoming more connected through globalization?
Thank you for the question, Nabil. For the answer for your question is yes. In our opinion, realism theory is still relevant because even in the globalized world, country continues to prioritize their own national interests, economic trade, and security. For example, many of countries still compete over technology, military power, influence despite international cooperation. This shows that power and self-interest remain important in international relations.
Which assumption of realism theory that you think has the biggest impact on international relations today and why?
Thank you, Hisham, for the question. Now I will answer your question. I think the assumption that state cannot fully trust one and another has the biggest impact today. It is because it influences many government decisions. Countries often strengthen their military, control sensitive information, and build strategic alliance. It is because they are always concerned about their own security and survival. That's all from me. Thank you.